Imagine you are the Manchester City scouting department. Your club has just spent £900 million building one of the greatest squads in football history. You have Erling Haaland, you have Kevin De Bruyne, you have a manager who has won everything, and you are about to lose at home to a team from above the Arctic Circle. A team whose stadium sits on artificial grass because the real pitch freezes solid in winter. That is not a hypothetical. That is the 2025/26 Champions League. And the club doing it? Bodo/Glimt. A name most football fans could not have placed on a map 18 months ago. Tonight, we tell their full story. Bodo/Glimt is not a new club. They were founded in 1916, over 100 years of football history in one of the most remote cities in Europe. For most of that century, they were exactly what you would expect. A decent Norwegian side, sometimes domestic dominance was established, but Norway's league is not what draws the world's attention. Europe is, and nobody, absolutely nobody, was prepared for what came next. The Aspmyra Stadion holds 8,500 people. The San Siro holds 75,000. That difference is not just logistical. It tells you everything about the gap in resources, revenue, and expectation between these clubs. Bodo/Glimt's entire annual budget is estimated at around 15 to 20 million euros. Inter Milan's wage bill alone is over 200 million. So when you see those scoreboards, 3-1, 2-1, 1-0, and you understand those numbers, the results stop being surprising and start being something else entirely. They start being a story. To understand just how extraordinary this Champions League campaign has been, you need to see the full picture. Bodo/Glimt entered the 2025/26 Champions League as one of the least fancied sides in the competition's history. Their group stage was unpredictable. Their resources were non-existent by elite standards. And then the results started coming in. First came Manchester City. At the Etihad, City had lost only 4 times in their previous 3 Champions League campaigns. They were at home. Bodo/Glimt won 2-1. The football world did a double take, assumed it was a freak result. Then came Atletico Madrid, away from home at the Metropolitano, the stadium where Atletico have one of the fiercest home records in Europe. Bodo/Glimt won 1-0. By this point, the football world was not doing a double take. It was paying full attention. And then came Inter Milan, the reigning Champions League finalists, leading Serie A by 7 points, arriving in Norway with 6 straight wins. You know the result, 3-1 to the club from above the Arctic Circle. This is not a story about luck. It is a story about a system. February 18th, 2026, Bodo, Norway. The temperature is close to freezing. Groundsmen had spent hours clearing snow from the Aspmyra pitch with heavy machinery. Inter Milan's captain Lautaro Martinez arrived already frustrated. The club had formally complained to UEFA about the artificial surface before the match even kicked off. Cristian Chivu, Inter's manager, made 6 changes to his starting lineup. 6. Against the team that had already knocked out Manchester City and Atletico. Whether that was rotation, arrogance, or calculated risk, only Chivu knows. What happened next punished every one of those decisions. In the 20th minute, midfielder Sondre Brunstad-Fett opened the scoring with a finish that captured everything about Bodo/Glimt: crisp passing, intelligent movement, clinical execution. Inter equalized through 20-year-old Francesco Pio Esposito before halftime, a moment that briefly made the scoreline look like the result everyone expected, but the second half belonged entirely to the hosts. Jens Petter Hauge, a man who once played for AC Milan before being deemed surplus to requirements, smashed a stunning effort into the roof of the net in the 60th minute. 3 minutes later, Kasper Ho made it 3-1. The same move twice in 3 minutes. Quick passing, selfless assists, and an Inter defense that simply could not cope with the intensity. The final whistle blew. Bodo/Glimt 3, Inter Milan 1. The Arctic Circle had done it again. The result came with a subplot. Inter captain Lautaro Martinez left the pitch with a calf injury, one the club directly attributed to the artificial surface. Inter formally filed a complaint with UEFA. Chivu was measured in front of the cameras, but the message was clear. The conditions were not acceptable. Bodo/Glimt, for their part, said nothing. They did not need to. The scoreboard said everything. The identity, environment, and the press. First, identity. Bodo/Glimt have had remarkable continuity in their coaching philosophy. Confusion. When Inter Milan's rotating lineup arrived with 6 new starters, they were improvising. Bodo/Glimt were executing a plan they had rehearsed hundreds of times. Second, environment. The artificial surface, the Arctic weather, the 8,500 capacity stadium packed to the walls with supporters. None of Bodo/Glimt's starting 11 had ever played a Champions League knockout game before this season. But every single one of them had played dozens of matches on that specific pitch, in those specific conditions, in front of that specific crowd. Their opponents had not. That home advantage is not luck. It is a legitimate tactical weapon. And third, the press. Bodo/Glimt players who chose to be the best version of themselves at Bodo/Glimt, and in doing so have become, briefly, the most talked about players in European football. Jens Petter Hauge scored the goal that broke Inter's spirit on Wednesday night. 5 goals in the Champions League this season, more than any other Bodo/Glimt player, and more than some of the biggest stars in the competition. Hauge is not new to European football. He was at AC Milan. He was at Eintracht Frankfurt. He was deemed not quite good enough for those levels and returned to Norway. Revenge, some might call it. Kasper Ho sealed the win 3 minutes after Hauge, 22 years old. Playing Champions League knockout football for the first time in his career, he did not look like it. The finish was composed, certain, and completely appropriate for the moment, and Sondre Brunstad Fett, the midfielder who opened the scoring. Unknown to most of the watching world at kickoff, known to all of it at full time. That is what Bodo/Glimt does to players. It gives them a stage, a system, and belief. And they deliver. Bodo/Glimt traveled to the San Siro for the second leg on February 25th, leading 3-1. Inter, at full strength, at home, in front of 75,000 fans, and Inter, despite everything, remain one of the finest squads in European football. But here is the thing about Bodo/Glimt. Every time the football world has written them off this season, they have responded with a result nobody expected. They beat Manchester City when everyone said it was a fluke. They beat Atletico away when everyone said the first one was luck. They beat Inter when everyone said they would be punished for not respecting a resting team. The second leg is not over. And even if this Champions League run ends on February 25th, what Bodo/Glimt have already achieved cannot be undone. The scorelines are permanent. The story is real. And somewhere in Bodo, above the Arctic Circle, in a stadium that holds 8,500 people, with an artificial pitch that confuses the greatest clubs in the world, a squad of players nobody had heard of has rewritten what is possible in European football. Subscribe, and I will keep you updated on every development as this story unfolds. Because trust me, it is not finished yet.